Hello, everybody. Okay. I'm sorry I'm late. Slow start today, but I'm here now. I did not have as much time to prepare as usual, so I have no specific thing in mind to talk about. And I didn't spend. I spent even. I let me start over there. I usually don't spend a lot of time picking out my 3 books. Uh, uh, I spent even less time than usual this morning because I was running around trying to get things together. But I did grab 3 books. And I'm trying to see, is there any commonality with these 3? We'll just call it geek enthusiasm. So, first, I have my vintage original. What year is this? 1979. Clearly, I wasn't the original owner. I probably picked this up in high school. The classic Advanced D&D Dungeon Master's Guide. Look at that art. Have you ever seen a better illustration? I don't think you have. By Gary Gygax. The guy, for those who don't know, like the original D&D guy. This probably will be a shock to almost nobody, but I was quite a D&D fan. I did not play live games as often as I would have liked because it's actually, at least where I was and the schools I was going to, kind of hard to find like a group. I mostly enjoyed the computer games. My go-to for the old school gamers out there was Pool of Radiance for the PCs of the time, which I will still every few years go and play from the beginning. Like I still love that game. It's a very classic AD&D rule set. And it might have even been why I picked this up, because I never was a DM. So I don't know why, unless I bought this just for my own knowledge of how the game works. I probably bought it to help unravel the D&D computer games I was playing. But anyway, the original Dungeon Master Guide in pretty good condition, I might add. Like I'm looking at this, and I would never part with it. And I don't know if they probably go for. I'm sure there are lots of these out there. They don't go for anything, but pages are clean. I don't see any tears. Did anyone write in it? I don't even see someone normally with these, you'll at least see somebody's name or something written in it. Nothing. Pages are good. Pages are spotless. It's just, it's clearly been used. It's a little beat up, but not bad. So anyway, there's that. Continuing with our geek enthusiasm. So I do enjoy stories about cryptids. Maybe mythological, maybe just yet undiscovered, undocumented animals in the wild. Okay. Now I want to preface this with, and I hope Squatch isn't watching. I'm not saying I believe capital B in any of this stuff. I really, if you made me bet, if I had $1 million to bet, and like, look, bet $1 million right now, do you think the Jersey Devil exists? Do you think Bigfoot exists? Do you think like $1 million? Like I would that's where my rational brain would kick in, and I'd be like, I'm not going to take that bet. But it's kind of like the UFO stuff. I love to read about it. Like I find it really, really entertaining. This is back. I mean, this to me is like the safe, a harmless version of magical thinking. Unlike magical thinking about like, I don't know, like some of the ugly conspiracy theories that are out there today. This is when weird fringe thinking was kind of just fun and entertaining and sort of a pastime, a harmless pastime. This is before streaming, guys. There was not a lot to do. You might as well think about Bigfoot. But anyway, my favorite of the cryptids, and the one that, if you ask me which one do you think is most likely, like if any of these, if I told you one of the known cryptids exists, which one do you bet it is? I would put my money on Mokele Mbembe, the so-called, the sauropod, the supposed lost sauropod of the Congo. There are all these indigenous accounts deep in the jungle of an animal that lives out there that vaguely resembles how we think of, for example, like apatosaurs or so-called, brontosaurs, things like that. That the way people describe it, the way they, say it looks, the way it behaves and everything, it kind of sounds like that. This was written by a guy who was dead set. He's like, I want to go out and see like if there's anything to this, and I want to see if I can spot one, and I'm going to see if I can take a photograph. And it's his account of being out in the Congo looking for Mokele Mbembe. And also, if you're older like me, you might remember a pretty bad movie, by my recollection, that was popular in the 80s called Baby, which was about not this guy, but the same cryptid. This idea that there is a sauropod living out in the jungles of Africa somewhere that people talk about, but no one's seen. Anyway, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was also just very good. It's like some of the books in this kind of genre, sometimes they can be garbage. This was actually one of the better ones. I thought it was interesting. It did a good job of describing all the accounts and like what kind of evidence there is and what kind of evidence does not exist. And this guy was very straight about this is what I saw when I was out there. He's got some kind of interesting photographs, some compelling photographs of what may be a sign of something. I don't know, but it's really fun to kind of go down the rabbit hole. This, for another kind of, since this is the geek enthusiast reading selection, just for an added element, this is the book I sat and read when I was camped in line to see Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. That's right. Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to check the comments before I get to my third selection. Thank you. No, we're working through the books right now. There's still one more to go. Let's see. Mist is a classic. Pool of Radiance is slightly before. A few years before. I don't remember. I think Pool of Radiance would be like 87, maybe? We're going to check my video game knowledge real quick. Pool of Radiance. 88. But that's close, right? Okay. Yes, I know you and I are on the same page of like, fringe thought used to be fun and harmless and didn't result in, people storming pizza places with a gun. Like it used to be like, do you see the hidden messages on the back of your dollar bill? Like that, it was fun. It was fun. I don't know. In my day, whatever. So let's see here. Yeah, that would be a shame. Let's see here. Mothman. I do enjoy Mothman stories. And Mothman, I will say, of all the cryptids, agree or disagree in the chat, Mothman is the most compelling to draw. Like the most visually interesting of all of them. Just the silhouette, the eyes. Like there's no other cryptid that looks as cool as Mothman, in my opinion. Yeah, Loch Ness is one of the ones that I do full, like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. A lot of the others are more in that kind of Fox Mulder, like, I want to believe category. Like, I want to believe that there could be Sasquatches out there. I really do. Like, I love, that would be the most exciting thing to me, especially as someone who came out of like the anthropology world. Like, that would be mind blowing. Most of human history, but not just modern humans, but when you talk about like hominids, we shared the planet with other species of human, like, which is inconceivable for us today, where we're all just modern humans. But there were lots of times in the past where we were sharing the earth with like Homo erectus or Neanderthals or whatever, like it was a totally different thing. And we've kind of just taken for granted, like, how we're like that we're the only ones. If we found a Bigfoot, like, that would be crazy. That would be crazy. But again, if I had to bet $1 million, we're not going to find a Bigfoot. I think we would have found one by now. But I believe I have several books on Sasquatch back there. And I do think there's a lot of interesting stuff there. I'm not going to say like 100% this is nonsense, this is fairy tales. I'm not going to say that. 90% is probably fairy tales. But anyway, okay. Yeah, it's fun. I don't know. I love it. I don't know why I love it so much, but I do. Baby, yes. I don't know how many people have seen Baby, but that was the movie. I remember it not being particularly good as a movie, but I remember, the effects, like I don't know. This is my child memory of it. I'll have to load up after the show, load up some YouTube clips and see, like, is it, because I remember it looking okay, but I don't know. Oh my God. My favorite, I think, how did it come up? It came up in Jim's and my top 5 favorite TV shows, I think. I think In Search Of, it at least made my honorable mentions, but I think it was in my top 5. I'd have to go back and look. Love In Search Of. In Search Of, and I apologize for people who saw this in the top 5. I see, we have Jim Lujan himself in the green room. I'm going to bring him in a second, Louis. I told this story there, and I apologize if, for those who have already heard it, but In Search Of, I discovered it when I was a little kid. Not a little kid, but like, I don't know, 11 or something. And it's at an age where I didn't realize you could just put anything on TV, even if it wasn't necessarily real. Like, I was watching In Search Of and was like thinking it's a friggin' documentary. Like, I was just like, this, what? Like, it was blowing my mind and freaking me out, because if you go into In Search Of with that attitude of like everything in here is 100% true, it'll scare the bejesus out of you. Like, this is like crazy. So I think I remember one night in particular, I stayed up watching In Search Of, and they were talking about near-death experiences of people seeing like all their extended family as ghosts and stuff. And they do the reenactments of like people in these white gauzy dresses and stuff. And I was freaked out. Like, I was just like, like, why isn't this on the news all the time? Like, if they know all this, I was terrified. But In Search Of was great. Superior to Unsolved Mysteries, I think. Corey. Yeah, Mothman, just from an illustrator comic guy perspective, it's a great design and concept. It's A+. It's really good. I wanted that movie to be better. I think I saw the Mothman Chronicles, Mothman Diaries. What was it? Something like that. I think Richard Gere was in it. Not great. Let's see here. They do. Giants are a fun one. Yeah, you can see. I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah, Giants are a fun one too. Another story that I loved, I heard for the first time a few years ago, was something like the Kandahar Giant. It's this like, I don't know what you'd call it. It's not really an urban legend, but this story that when we were in Afghanistan, a group of our soldiers came across a giant living in the hills and got into a skirmish with it and killed it. And we hauled it back, and then it was all like classified and covered up. Which, again, if you're asking like $1 million, did this actually happen? No, it didn't happen. But I'm going to tell you, I read like 15 versions of that story. I went down that rabbit hole where I was like, I love this. I just love the idea. They ought to make a movie about this. This is amazing. This is great. Let's see here. Yeah, you can get, there's a couple channels. I think I follow one of them where they've uploaded all the old insert ups. You can sit and just watch them. Sometimes I'll let them play in the background just to hear Leonard Nimoy talk about Atlantis or something. Jim is probably my favorite cryptid too. I didn't think of that. Jim Lujan is probably my favorite cryptid. My second favorite is Mokele Mbembe. Third favorite would be Bigfoot. So, okay. I see Jim waiting. It looks like he's hard at work on his next movie, The Full Fungus, which I'm very excited about. And I think he's got his first live stream tomorrow to kind of do this little hamster wheel that I'm doing. Every once in a while, check in and let people know like how the movie is going. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get... Oh, wait, I haven't done my third book. Oh, sorry, Jim. Sorry, you've been bumped. So the last in the Geek Enthusiasm books, and this ties into Pool of Radiance and being 1 year off calling when Pool of Radiance was. This is Game Over by David Sheff. This is a great, and you don't even have to be into video games. It's a super entertaining, interesting story about primarily, the rise of Nintendo in the West. It does talk a little bit about Atari, it does talk a little bit about Sega and like other things, but it's mostly focused on how Nintendo went from basically a playing card company that made decks of playing cards for the Yakuza, basically, in Japan. And they made a ton of money by making these cards because I guess like in the gambling that they were doing, like the real cool thing was to always use a fresh deck every new game. So that, like these Japanese gangsters would just burn through decks. And like if you made like the deck that Japanese gangsters wanted to use, like you were set. And that's how Nintendo mostly got its start. Like how mostly they were making their money was selling playing cards to gangsters. Which is like, so that like it basically starts there, more or less. I don't know if that's the first thing we talk about, but very early on, just to set the stage of where Nintendo came from. You just learn all sorts of crazy cool things like that are really interesting. The main thing, this is about a lot of things, but it spends a significant chunk talking about Nintendo winning the rights to bring Tetris to their new handheld, the Game Boy. And then, of course, also the Nintendo Entertainment System and all this other stuff. And all the weird... I think they're even making a movie about that right now, just on the Tetris thing. But, like, how complicated and weird and crazy that was. Because you have Tetris being invented by a programmer who's in the USSR. So... you know, it's like full communism. Like it's not like you can just go and sign this guy. Like you got to deal with the Russian government. It's very complicated. You got to deal with the Russian mafia because they kind of control everything. Like it's just the mess to try and get the rights. So it's like this Japanese company going over there. It's like, so we need this game for our handheld, and like how that all played out. Really super interesting. There's one part of this book that I'll always remember. I don't know why it sticks with me. I just thought it was really funny. So the CEO or president of Nintendo of Japan at its height, like during the original Nintendo Entertainment System era. I think his name, I don't remember his first name, but I think it was Yamaguchi is his last name. And he had this reputation, like a lot of CEOs, of being terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. No one wanted to cross this. Everyone was like scared to death of this guy. And there's a story in here about how I think Coleco felt they had the right somehow to like put Donkey Kong on their console, and there was this confusion about the rights, Donkey Kong being a Nintendo game. And Nintendo was not happy. And this Yamaguchi called in like the heads of Coleco like for a meeting. And so they all go in there, and he's sitting on the far end of this one table. He's this little Japanese guy with big glasses. And the way they describe it in the book, it's described much better. This is my memory of it, where like he starts talking, like basically monologue in Japanese. No one else there knows Japanese. The Coleco guys don't know Japanese. So he starts talking. It starts, the way they describe it, it starts very like low and kind of just like this very kind of quiet and low and slow. But as this long like monologue comes out, it starts getting louder and louder and louder. And by the end, he's like just ranting at the Coleco guys. And the translator is just sitting there like waiting for like the opportunity, because he's not giving him a break to translate anything. So the translator is just sitting there like listening to this. And finally, like Yamaguchi wraps up, and there's this giant like screaming, rant at the Coleco guys. And I guess the first thing the translator is like, Mr. Yamaguchi is upset. And then it just like started translating. I love it. I don't know why I love that so much, but it just like, it's one of those things. I'm sure if you're in the room, it's terrible. But hearing about it, it's hilarious. Anyway, great fun book. If you're even mildly interested in like just the historical aspect of how Nintendo sort of took over the world back in the 80s and 90s, this is a great book. Very readable. You don't even have to be a huge video game person. It's a fun story. Okay, now let's see here. Let's see here. Okay, wait. I'm checking to see if I need to catch up on anything in the chat. Jim got bumped, but we're gonna get. He's the Matt Damon of the Jimmy Kimmel Show. We're gonna bring him in here. Let's see here. Yeah. Josh having fun. Let's see here. There we go. That's how I got started in graphic design, making burnable playing cards for gangsters. Apparently, that's the way to go. Let's see. Oh, interesting. I'd be interested in, yeah. I'm mildly interested in, like I said, I think they're making a movie about it. It's going to be on Apple Plus or something. I'm mildly interested. I think if I hear good things, I'll watch it, but I don't know. I'm curious about it. Anyway, it is a fascinating story. Yeah, what they had to sign is very complicated and strange. It was not easy to do, but obviously Nintendo did manage to get Tetris on Game Boy, and Game Boy was a ridiculous success. When was the book published? I'm going to test myself again. This I'm not going to get as accurately as Pool of Radiance, but I'm going to say this was 1996. 1994. I'm not bad. Not a high degree of accuracy, but not bad. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the notorious, the infamous Jim Lujan. Animator Pal.
Is this the homework hotline?
What are you having trouble with, son? How's it going?
It is going really good. I actually, for two reasons. One is I wanted to really say, this will probably be the last show that you do before you're finished with the book. Pretty much.
There'll at least be one more. At least be one
I
more.
mean, you're gonna do one page. You're gonna let the page
Well,
dangle.
keep in mind. So, but remember how I'm playing with the math, this fuzzy math here. 2-ish means I'm working on the third to last. So the next one will be 1-ish page left where I'm working on the second to last. And then I think there'll be an ish page left, like where I'm working on the last page.
Boy, you really do work for the government, don't you? Well, when we said that we were going to provide the funding, we did provide.
What we meant is we're
funding.
not providing the funding. Yeah.
We just didn't provide the funds. So there you go.
What I mean is we approved the funding, but we haven't actually distributed any of the funds.
I'm going to say it again. We did provide the funding. The funding is there.
It's
We
there.
don't have the funds.
We have it. Actually, what's funny is, as at my government job, I got hit with that once. I was told years ago. I still can't decide. Like, am I supposed to feel okay about this? We've done all the paperwork to approve your pay bump. Like, it's in. It's all approved. It's like, well, great.
All right, well,
yes. I don't know.
Okay, so I prematurely want to say congratulations.
Yeah, no, I'm not there yet. I'm just getting very close.
Okay. The other reason I called into the homework hotline is I want to find out if you or any of your viewers, I cannot find a reference image for, hi, Dee Dee, for bowlers, in this pose. You know, where they hold the ball in front of their face.
Really?
Like that? Yeah. I found I found plenty of action bowling, but I haven't found. I need reference for just somebody holding a bowling ball. You know, that real intense there. So I've made stuff up.
What are you Googling for? I want to look right now.
Yeah. By the way, Josh, yes, premature congratulations. They opened for Pixies in 1989, I think. They were really good. Yeah.
They were.
Yeah. Actually, premature congratulations could also be a boy band.
What about wait a minute. I think I've got one.
Dangle Page, another one.
Yeah, Dangle Page.
Oh my God.
I'm going to.
Oh, I know what you're doing. Here, I'll buy time.
No, I'm sending you. Tell me if this is the sort of thing you're looking for. I'm sending you.
Well, why don't you just post it on the page? Share it here. Can you? You could share window.
Let me see.
You can. Just don't share the wrong window. You know.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. Because I did my OnlyFans stream just before this, and
no, tell Dee Dee, we're going to be mature here, adults. We're not going to go into the kids' humor. Gary,
I can't promise that.
No potty mouth. I know, because it's sad if I arrive, then that's the direction things go.
Dee Dee, you love the 13-year-old boy jokes. Don't even lie.
I know Gary loves 13-year-old boy jokes, minus the jokes.
That, ironically, a 13-year-old boy joke right there. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to try and do this. Share screen, share window.
No, see, I found a million of those. I need a front.
You want it? Oh, the front. What I would look at is I would actually go to YouTube and find bowling tournaments. And then find a frame, because that's usually where I'm used to.
You know what? I kind of did that. They have a lot of 3/4 shots. I just need a front shot. If anybody has a bowling ball in their house and would like to send me a reference photo, just a full, exactly how I am now, but with a bowling ball right here. You know, with their eyes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm gonna have to make it up, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I understand. Well, now you I think that'll be a fun diversion for me today. When I need a break from drawing, I might try to find. Yeah, I see what you mean. I see lots of pictures of just when the ball is touching the lane. You know, they just rolled. Huh. But I guess it makes sense. Do they have a lot of cameras on the other end of the lane? Okay.
Josh said, I feel like Paul Pate would own a bowling ball.
Yeah, it says Paul. Who bowls? Who bowls
Yeah,
here?
he's in the he has a fez too.
I can picture Paul Pate in a fez better than I can bowling.
Picture Paul Pate in lots of different. He's like kind of like G.I. Joe. You know, there's all kinds of
Yeah,
different versions of Paul. You get the
yeah, or like a Ken doll. Like he can be anything. He can.
yeah.
Yeah.
Smooth like a Ken doll.
That's not really what I was saying.
Speaking of 13-year-old boys, okay, this is enough. Why
Wow.
does this happen?
Edie, it's not my fault.
Edie,
It's not my fault.
you know what? It's just a chemical reaction. Anyways, I am on my way out of the door. Believe it or not.
Dee Dee says she might have sent you some bowling stuff.
Oh, okay. I'm going to check it. We're going right now to a coffee shop, and I'm going to work on. Can I give an exclusive?
Oh yes, please. Here, wait now.
Secrets?
Let's see if I can figure out. Oh no, that's just switching the spots. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. There we go.
See? There's some bowling.
Oh yes, you showed me these last night. Here, let me read.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yes. I want to know about that guy with the snake pattern pants and the
this
kind
is
of greasy weird
his nickname is the Gopher Snake.
That's not, yeah.
Yeah. So all of this stuff is not ancillary. What's the right word? It's kind of in the background of the film. It's not the focus of the film.
It's color.
Yeah.
It's vibe.
Peripheral. Yes. Peripheral. I heard that in my peripheral.
Yes.
Thank you, Dee Dee. I will check my Instagram. I'm sure it'll be much more. Oh, look at this. Look at, she sent me the perfect photo. I don't know how you found that so fast.
Look at it.
Yeah, that's what I want because I needed the hands like that.
I'm gonna hire her when I'm getting ready. I'm doing prep for the next comic. Like this is ridiculous.
You know, can I say one thing before I go?
Yes.
I for sure thought.
Well, is it another thing about 13-year-old boys?
No. This is really legit. I thought for sure if I would have asked Gary to send me a picture of a guy holding his ball, he would have had plenty on hand.
You know what? This is something I've learned from my work in the criminal justice system.
Uh-oh.
The depraved mind always assumes every other mind is as bad as it. Like that's all I'm going to say right there.
I need to finish this really quick because I need to send these arts that I've created to Jodi Arias as in my fan letters.
Yeah. Do you want to get? I bet you get some. I bet she'd read it if you send her something.
By the way, people that don't know our private conversations probably think it's bizarre that we talk about Jodi Arias like out of the blue.
But what is this we? What is we?
We. I've seen her on TV. You've seen her in real life, so there's a difference.
Well, yeah, but but wait a minute. Here's the question, and remember you're under oath. Who spontaneously brings up Jodi Arias more often?
The prosecutor.
Between the two of us.
Look at that, another one.
That's even better. That's even better.
For art research sake, let us know where you get these, Dee Dee, because I was searching all last night. I couldn't find any.
I want to know. She knows her search terms. She knows.
Are you AI?
It could be.
Okay.
Let's see here. I'm gonna look at. See, this is the guy you want to be talking to right here.
What grade are you in?
This is why you didn't ask Paul for Paul.
Because he would have sent a photo.
And a picture of a guy holding the ball from the front.
Yeah.
From the front, Paul. You need that front view.
So Dee Dee says she's not AI, was exactly what an AI program would say.
Of course. Yeah, suspicious. Bowling shirts, well, are they rad, or do they just kind of look cool in a movie or something? I don't know.
Who do you think's the best bowler in the Artcasters community? That's what I want to know.
Well, I know it's not me. That could have been the one that she just sent. I'm touching.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Got
Artcasters Bowling League. I have brief bowling story. Bowling shorts remind me of Kramer. Yeah, Kramer, though I prefer his kind of 70s hipster shirts. Like to the, yeah. But it's not something I could pull off. You could do full 1970s bowling. So I've bowled probably like 4 times in my life. And I kind of have a bad attitude about it because and this is not a brag, just stay with me. The very first time I rolled a bowling ball, got a strike, like right off the bat. And it ruined the experience because to me, I was like, I'm a natural. This is easy. I got it. I understand bowling. First try. I'm a savant when it comes to bowling. And I never even got close to a strike ever again. It was always like gutter balls or like clipping the sign. So it kind of made me sort of irrationally angry about bowling. Like I really just, I don't think I want to ever do it again.
Hey, Leanne, do you think Gary and my 13-year-old sense of humor is gross? Yeah, no, it's wonderful. Okay, just checking.
What about Paul's?
He's gross.
Yeah, Paul's gross.
Paul. Yeah, he's gross. Paul's gross.
Terrible. Terrible.
So I think we've all agreed that if Dee Dee is AI, she's kind and she's going to be the one that saves us from the bad AI.
From the Skynet.
So,
right.
like Arnold in the first movie, she's going to ride in on a motorcycle and save us.
That's the second movie.
Oh yeah, the first one he's bad. The first one he's Corey AI. Because I believe Corey might be
the one that Corey talked, or do you think Corey? Are you saying Corey is actually the AI?
Corey might be an agent. He doth protest too strongly.
Oh, he's a narc.
It's part of my conspiracy theory. And yeah, there's lots of stuff going on behind the scenes that I can't tell you about. You don't have security clearance. So,
Well,
and I don't want to jeopardize mine.
For the best, I don't know then.
I have to sign papers.
I understand.
So, anyways, thank you, Dee Dee, for sending me. I seriously, I didn't read in the chat where you found them, so thank you. I just did Google image search, so.
Josh is unraveled. He's started the conspiracy thinking. He's trying to find the patterns. He's trying to find the.
But so does Josh and Gary.
Yeah.
Just saying. Yeah. Last man standing.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. And so does Paul.
Yeah.
You know what else has 3 letters, Gary?
Boy.
Oh, it's 4 letters. I'm sorry. We know it's 4 letters. Now.
Boys.
And so does Chris, as in Chris Hansen.
Jim.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jim PGPT. So.
There we go.
All right. Well, anyways, thank you.
So give us a sneak preview of what are we in for with
tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night.
Hey man, how's your movie going? Is the name of my
yes. Now you have not publicly released the intro, right? That was just
no, but you can if you want. You have it. I don't care. But I will.
Well, I don't. I haven't uploaded it.
It's patterned on your show here, minus the 13-year-old boys.
Minus what?
The 13-year-old boys. So it's exactly like this, minus that.
Why is he doing this to me?
Oh, God. All right.
It's because of that Harry Potter story.
I know. That is still that's the greatest story ever. No, it's going to be very casual. Very, very casual. So, that's my parole officer. He said, you've used the word 13-year-old boys over 4 times in one day. Please come see me. No weapons. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be real casual, and I'll just I'll give you guys details. It's not going to be as regular as yours, as you do yours every week. I'm going to probably do mine every 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it is going to be just kind of like a process diary. It's to keep. I mean, to be honest, it's to keep people more interested in
aware, and yeah. Well, that's what this was supposed to be. Like, I don't know. We'll see if, and I think I've mentioned this months ago, we'll see if there's any noticeable difference in terms of sales once 1979 comes out from having done this exercise. That was, mostly what I was looking to do, was just to stay on the radar.
Well, yeah, I know, because otherwise you disappear and then you come out with something and then you disappear again.
I have very much the Moses and Sinai approach to work, where it's like, I'm going to go do my thing, I'll be back. And I guess I was concerned people are building golden calves while I'm gone. I need to.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a good thing when you just disappear. Much like those 13-year-old boys that in your backyard. So, all right. Anyways, I do love you, and I apologize. I'm going to send you an apology email right now. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the artwork and
selfies.
Okay,
what?
And let's work on the 4-letter conspiracy thing.
Yeah, there's something there.
There's something there. Okay, thanks, Gary. Have a good one. Congratulations.
Okay, you have a good day, and I look forward to his show tomorrow, and you all should too. He's told me, I'm happy to say, more than is publicly available about the full fungus, and I'm very excited for it already. I think, I don't know if I should say this out loud, because I don't know if this would mess with his head. I think it could be the best yet. Who knows? I just love the concept. I love the things he's been describing. There's an enthusiasm that he always is enthusiastic about his work, but there's this, there's a qualitative difference. There's something different in the air with this one that this one's going to be special, I think. Don't destroy your work when you come down. I missed it. I need elaboration. Okay, so what's going on today? So, as I mentioned, so this is 2-ish pages left. 2-ish, meaning I'm working on the 3rd to last page. I have 2 full pages left, and I have to finish the page I'm working on before I can get to those 2 pages left. I am slightly behind on this one, but I think I'm going to make good progress this weekend. And there's nothing particularly complicated about it. It's just sitting, it's just button share. That's all. I'm not anxious about any of it, like other pages I've done so far. I'm going to have to take some reference selfies. It's getting crooked. Reference selfies today of me holding, I can show you this. I don't think this is much of a spoiler. So I have, this is a 2-scale foam core printout of a, let's try and hold this sort of realistically, an MP5 SD, which is it's an MP5 variant. MP5 is a submachine gun. It is wildly popular. You see variants of it all over the world, and especially in the era we're talking about, which is late 70s, but also 80s, it was sort of everywhere. Without getting into too many spoilers, so at the end of the book, you're going to see some soldiers with guns, obviously. Soldiers, it's not exactly right. Let's just say, kind of the Black Op, Men in Black type related peripheral people. The kinds of armed government agents you would expect to see in an alien conspiracy comic, okay? So this is just maybe some behind the scenes research stuff. That begs the question, well, how are these people armed? Like, what would they have? I ended up settling on this mostly, first of all, because of the popularity, because it's very appropriate for the thing. There's nothing unusual about them being armed with something like this in the book. Now, we did already see some M16s in the book, but those were more kind of traditional military. These people carrying this are a little more of like that Man in Black side of things. Why would they have something different? What I liked about this, and the reason I settled on this particular variant of the MP5, is it has a built-in suppressor, and this gets into the technical thing. The bullet velocity is low enough where it doesn't break the speed of sound. Now, that's a kind of a funny thing with like silenced weapons, is like you can put a silencer on something, it's still not going to be quiet, but it's much more quiet. But if the bullet is fast enough that it's actually breaking the speed of sound, if it's actually like it kind of, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but it matters less because you're still getting like essentially a sonic boom of like, you know, the bullet breaking the sound barrier. It's like a different thing. What's interesting about this is it's slow enough where it's about as quiet as a muffled submachine gun can get. And I thought Man in Black types would probably see a lot of appeal in something like this, where yes, it's going to be loud. It's not like the movies. It's not going to be whisper quiet, but it'll be much, much quieter. And if you're a Man in Black type, and sometimes you have to do a little bit of shooting and you're trying not to alert the whole goddamn neighborhood, you know, but you also want something serious because you're dealing with dangerous, dangerous aliens, this might be the way to go. So I got to do some reference selfies, and I needed, you know, you want to get the scale right. Actually, if I had thought more about this, I wouldn't have printed this at 1-to-1 scale, because I'm not a giant guy. I'm 5'8" and like 145 pounds. And I'm picturing the guys carrying this are bigger than me. So if I had been smart, I would have printed this at maybe like 90% scale. And that would have had it, because now what I'm going to have to do is when I'm looking at my references, I'm going to have to just, in my mind when I'm drawing, you know, like rescale things. Behind the scenes how-to stuff. But anyway, this will be helpful. There's also, just so some, for reasons I'm not going to get into because it will be spoilers, I'm also enlisting a friend to do a little bit of standing in for reference pictures with this as well. And that will be Sunday. So that's why I'm not overly disappointed with being a little bit behind, because some of the selfies I need, or the reference images I need, I'm not even going to have till Sunday anyway. So, right, I think today I'm going to be mostly focusing on stuff that does not involve reference. Backgrounds and other characters and like getting everything else done. Sunday, I'll probably pivot to me taking some pictures of myself with this, me taking pictures of my friend with this, and like then I'll next week be like trying to catch up, getting everything done. So, okay. Let's see here. I'm going to catch up on chat again. Oh, there we go. Okay, got it. I forgot my Bizarro Moses analogy. Thank you. That's very clever. I was not clever enough to catch it because I had moved on. Let's see here. 2-ish or 3-ish? I have 2-ish pages left. 2 pages plus the one I'm working on. So it's 2-ish. And like I told Jim, it's going to be weird because next week will be 1-ish pages left, as in the page I'm working on plus another page. But then after that, I think it will be ish pages left, or it'll be done-ish. I don't know. I haven't decided how I'm going to like, but you know, this is the stupid game I'm playing now with myself to feel like I'm close to done. I mean, I don't know. I'm not ruling it out. This comic process can make you crazy. Like, I might. I've told people many times, I've told this story on this channel many times. When I finished 75, my first one, I did seriously consider the possibility of not doing anything with it. That it was just like, I did this. I'm glad I did it. Good enough. And like, I was going to move on with my life and do other things. So, you know, I guess that's always on the table, is something like, does the world need another D vs. M? I don't have to put this out. But Philip, how are you doing? That's right. That one can fire 0 rounds a second. That one that I just showed off. The actual one, I don't know. I think it's pretty fast. It's pretty gnarly. Not a high velocity round. Now you're getting into all the gun thing of like, you want a heavy slow bullet, you want a fast little bullet, what's it good or bad for? This would be this is actually, in a lot of ways, this is the disadvantage of the weapon. You're making up for it in like the amount you're putting out there, because it's not only a light bullet, it's slow as well, which usually you want either fast and light or slow and heavy. This is just like, it's a 9mm, which is not particularly heavy, and slow on top of that, but you're spraying, you know. And in D vs. M, the aliens are never, unless they're actually in a so-called Mars bot, they're very lightly armored. You know, like they're not, that's not how their strategy isn't to just sit in there and tank up and, you know, be on a firefight. They're basically like in vital monitoring little jumpsuits, stealth suits, and like that's it. And they're totally exposed, and their heads are big enough where you can go for the headshots anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I figured for their purposes, for a Man in Black type purpose, like something like this is perfect. Plenty. And it's not going to punch through walls and hit somebody on the other side. It's not going to, like, it's a fairly, you know, manageable kind of fire that you're pouring on the aliens. Again, this is all my headcanon. I don't know. Let's see here. And then we have another guest that it looks like he stepped away for a second, but as soon as he comes back, I'm going to pull him in. It's great, you know, and I mean, it's not, like, if I had unlimited funds, I would buy like an airsoft version or something just so you actually get the 3D feel. But like this, just for my purposes, and again, this is always the thing with reference. I can draw, so like but anything that gets me sort of there helps. Like that's great. And it's hard for me, like especially if I'm going to be asking someone else. Like if it was just me, I would honestly probably just measure what's the distance between the trigger and like the grip, and I would just hold that much, and I would add all the rest just to get a sense of where are my hands, like how far are my hands on this thing. But if I'm asking someone else, like I am on Sunday, to do some reference photos, I don't want to be asking, imagine you're holding, like, you know, and like it's easier to give them a thing to hold and then get them 50% of the way with that, and then finish the rest in post, so to speak. Like do the drawing you need to do. Let's see here. I find comfort in the fact that I have 190 pages to go. Always have work in front of me. You know, I don't know if you're being silly, but I'm taking this at face value. I sort of understand. I found the most difficult part of this process was, I would say, about 75 or 80% done. Where you can see the goal, but it's very distant on the horizon. Like that was for me, the hardest leg of this. And I think historically that's what it's been too. Like I always get like a last minute runner's high, like I do right now, like these last few pages when it feels like, oh, this month I'm going to be done. I'm going to be done drawing this month. Like now I feel pretty good. And I think even for like the first 6 months, I felt pretty good. Like it was because it's just this routine. It's just this like, well, another page. Time to make the donuts. But it was like at the 75 or 80% mark, where maybe 85%, where I could see like I was mostly done, but I felt like I'd been doing it for a long time and I still had months to go. Like that's where like I really tanked. And if you go back, I don't know why you would, but if you went back and watch my live streams, I'm assuming not only am I probably talking about it, it's probably apparent in my energy level and demeanor and the way I'm talking about it that like I'm over it. Like that's enough. Now I've kind of gotten past that. And I think the Arizona Comic Book Arts Festival helped. I think that was a nice little pick-me-up because it was a good show for me. But yeah, so I can see like having like a ridiculous number of pages left. You're kind of like, well, this is my life now. And you can kind of get into a routine. It was seeing the finish line that screwed me up. I don't know. There are arguments to be made for 22s. Mafia Hitmen like 22s. There's reasons. And if you've sat in and like if you've read autopsy reports like I have, or if you've sat in on autopsies like I have, 22 is kind of a terrifying. This is the thing. Here's my hot take. I'll be the weirdo right now. I'm not arguing for a 22. If I had to choose, like if I knew I was going to be in a situation where I had to use a gun, I would not pick a 22. I absolutely would not. But I wouldn't feel like I was helpless. I would just really pump a lot of bullets out of that thing, like just to be sure. Because here's the weird thing about 22s. You could take a shot at someone and it could somehow get interrupted by some heavy denim and just sort of splatter and fall apart and lightly wound somebody. Or on the other end of the spectrum, it can, and I've seen this, it can punch into your skull and pinball around in there and kill you 5 times over. Like, it's a weird round. It's like, and that's, or it can like hit and like zip, like do like strange, like I've seen autopsies where they can't even track it. Like they have the, the rods to kind of do the trajectory through the body. This is something they do when they're trying to figure out where the bullets went. You can't even do it because it like did all sorts of crazy left and right turns in the body. Like it's like, and that in some ways is scarier than, for example, like a 9mm. Of course, you don't want to get shot by any of them. Gunshot wounds are horrific. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, one of the best ways to check me out of a movie is to have someone get shot, and they just, like in Indiana Jones, tie, like, a thing around it, and they're good. Like, gunshot wounds are so gnarly on the inside. The things that are happening once that bullet goes into your body, it's a nightmare. No. But a 22 is scary. I've even heard stories, though, about like 32s and even 40s, like not punching through windshields, not going through heavy clothes, like weird things like that. Now, if you talk to my dad, so he's got real life application cred. He was in Vietnam. He was a homicide detective. Like he's like seen, like I asked him about this. He 100%, he's like the biggest, heaviest MFN bullet you can do. Like if you can handle a 45, you just push. Like you want a serious, like don't screw around. Like he rolls his eyes at 9mm. It's like a useless this is, and the military uses that, but like, he's like, I've seen things with 9mm. It's not that impressive around. And like, if you're really like in a situation where you need to use a gun, like you want it to drop somebody fast. You don't want it to be like a thing where it's, you're emptying your clip and it's, anyway. That's my gun right there. I am a little bit of a gun guy. Not the crazy type. I just grew up in Arizona. It's cowboys out here. I was learning to shoot when I was 6 years old. Like it's a different life in Arizona. But anyway, not the nutty kind though. I'm not going to the mall with my AR. I don't even have an AR. Why? I don't need that. It's people playing G.I. Joe. Anyway, okay, sorry. Let's see here. Yeah, 22s are spooky. No, it's okay. The ammo is, look, the Glock is a great handgun. Like, it's just beautifully made, easy to clean, almost foolproof, has good safety features, unlike, for example, like a 40, like the 1911 that you see in every movie and everything. Like, the most dangerous handgun I've ever handled. Like, I just absolutely not. But and the ammo is everywhere. I have a Glock. I love my Glock. But I don't know. Look, this channel is not going to be the gun shop talking about guns. Glock is good. Yeah. I will say, here's what I would say for a 22. Here's the argument for a 22. If you're learning to shoot, do the 22. Like if you want to get better, because there's like no kick. I mean, there's a little kick, but it's very, like, it's not a spooky round. Like, there are rounds, even for experienced shooters, like me. I mean, that sounds weird to say, but I guess I am, if I've been shooting since I was 6 years old, where it's a little, like, the kick, especially, again, 5'8", 145 pounds, like, the kick is like, this isn't even fun. Like, this hurts. Like, this is just a lot. And you'll hear even really experienced people, like military people, like they're shooting these like stupid Desert Eagles, like these 50 caliber like handguns, where it's like it's not even fun. Like it's just this crazy like violent impact to your body. If you're learning, 22 is great. Start with the 22. For like, if you really want to go down the personal defense route, which I have very mixed feelings about. As much as I own guns, I grew up with guns. I'm not afraid of guns. I mean, I have healthy respect, but not afraid. I have a lot of problems with the whole, like, everyone needs to be armed for personal defense. I don't subscribe to that. But if you feel that way, or maybe you're in a situation where you feel like you're in a dangerous neighborhood, or you have a crazy stalker ex, or whatever your thing is, that's where I would say, like, I would move up from a 22. Okay, that's it. I can't believe this has become Gary's gun. Of all the things this channel to be, like, it's, it packs a punch. That is enough of a deterrent for me. Who wants that kind of action? You don't know. Have you met Paul? Could be bad. I don't know. 357 is, for my personal, like, the amount of there's a lot of complicated things I'm talking about here, but for the amount of kick that I want to deal with, that's about my peak, is the 357. In terms of what I comfortably enjoy, like, my peak is more in like the 32 or the 9 range. But like 357 is all right. I've just never, I don't know. that's something I could imagine getting someday, is like a 357 revolver, but I don't know. This has gotten ridiculous. Yeah, I think 9 is a good, like, and I don't mean this in a dismissive way at all. Like, like I said, I own a 9mm Glock. It's a good kind of like baby's first gun. You know, once you've graduated to it from like learning on like a 22 or something, I think it's a good like, and especially Glock, they tend to make some that have very small grips, like are a little more compact, a little easier to handle, especially thinking of like if a woman thinks they need some kind of a personal defense firearm, like that's also kind of where my head goes of like, if like some smaller frame woman comes like, what should I buy? I'm not going to say like, what you need is sawed-off shotgun. What you need, which is illegal by the way, or what you need is like a 45. You know, like that's. I think you kind of need to match it to what we've got going on here and how experienced you are and how skilled you are. This is what I like about revolvers, and what I would tend to suggest revolvers to a less experienced shooter, because they're more foolproof. I mean, every time I hear about someone accidentally shooting themselves, my first thought is like, what kind of automatic was it? You know, and it's like just it's trickier. You have to be really irresponsible, I think, to shoot yourself with a revolver accidentally. I think you only need to be moderately irresponsible to shoot yourself with an automatic. There's lots of stupid, and again, if you're talking about like the 1911, like the 45 I was talking about, there's lots of good ways to accidentally shoot somebody with that. I mean, the safeties are ridiculous. Anyway, that's it. Okay. They're more reliable, easier to clean, easier to understand what's going on, easier to see if it's loaded, harder to make it accidentally go off. Like there's a lot of, that's why, yeah, I mean, if someone came to me who is like they did a couple shooting classes, they're sort of like, and I feel like there's been some break-ins at my place, I'm a little nervous, I got a crazy Stalker X, what should I would lean towards something like a little 32 revolver, something like that. That would be it's probably lots of different, you ask 4 different gun guys, you're going to get 8 different answers. But I would think that's like, to me, that just seems like I would have a clear conscience. I would have a clear conscience recommending something like that to a novice shooter, as opposed to some of these dipshits out there saying like, what you need. Like I've seen people you see this in like discussion boards and stuff, like, what do I get? I want something for home defense. And they're suggesting things that are asinine, totally insane and irresponsible. Like, because if they take your advice, they're more likely to kill themselves or somebody else in the house than the off chance that someone's breaking in. I just, that stuff drives me crazy. Like, 32 revolver is like, maybe try that. I don't know. Way easier to clean. My Glock I need to take apart. You don't have to take apart a 32 revolver. Anyway. Oh my God, the chat is crazy. Harry Callahan. I do love those movies, but it's wacko. Okay. But Cat Scratch Fever is fun. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot to be said for a shotgun. Poor Keith. I've got Keith Foster in the green room. We're going to let him in. And, like, Keith, let me just finish this up. I'm going to let you in to make me finish this thought. All right. Mr. Foster. Okay. So on the idea of shotgun for home defense, lots of good arguments for it. First of all, devastating. Okay. Second, has a lot of intimidation factor. Like, my attitude is like, someone's in the house, just rack it loudly. And like, that might like set it all straight. Like, someone's going to just they're going to go, oh shit. And they're going to bail out, like that might be enough which is the ideal scenario. You don't want to shoot somebody, like, and under any circumstances. You also don't want to get shot. So, like, if you can just rack a shotgun audibly and someone's like, I'm out, like, great. Also, it's not going to punch through 2 walls and kill some kid in their crib next door. Like, I mean, this is something that's it's extremely deadly here in the house. It is less likely, not impossible, less likely to kill your neighbor or somebody outside or whatever's going on, or someone in the next room. But Corey is an experienced shooter. This is good. Now that we're in the category of I'm keep using a female as an example. I hope that's not offensive, but let's say this normal everyday woman who's sort of learned how to shoot is coming to me for advice of what do you think I need for home defense. I would be reluctant to point her in this direction because now we're again talking about like a serious, like a kicking like a mule. Like this is a serious gun, and again, a pain in the ass to clean. And are you going to practice with this? Are you going to be going out to the range and getting good with this? Unlikely. Where a little 32 snub nose, I bet you will. Like that's something that's easier to kind of get comfortable with. It's easier to this is where you're getting into like, well, how experienced are you? Do you know what you're doing? How comfortable are you? But that said, I've shot my entire life. I own guns. I don't have a lot of interest in owning a shotgun. But that is first of all, this gets into like, I was a hobbyist shooter. I've always been sort of a hobbyist shooter. There's nothing fun about shooting a shotgun to me. Like, I'm never going to be like, let's go and shoot shotguns in the desert. Like, that sounds like garbage people do that. No offense if you're one of those people, but it just is like, I don't want to do that. I'm more of like a marksman hobbyist shooter where like I'm out there trying to get better and better at hitting the target. And that's not what you're doing with this. Like I don't know what you're doing with this, but it's not that. I'm out there trying to like show off the target saying like, whoa, I'm really dialing it in. That's what I'm interested in doing. So therefore I'm interested in something that's accurate, that I can fire reliably, that I'm comfortable holding, that I'm feeling really in tune with, that I know how to clean and take care of. Like this is a whole lifestyle for me. This isn't adventurism like it is with some people. So I don't know. I'm not accused. That's not what Corey is either. And there are lots of good, strong arguments for like a shotgun for home defense. But to me, home defense is secondary. Even with my job working, in a prosecutor's office, I don't feel that's I want to be careful here because I don't want to minimize anybody else's concerns. It's not a fear or concern that's very prevalent in my mind of like, what if someone breaks in? What if there's a home invasion? I honestly don't feel like that's something, at least in my situation, that I need to really worry about. So why am I owning a gun? Well, partly for that, but mostly to enjoy shooting. And this is a thing and this is a personal thing. This is like, do you like vanilla or strawberry or chocolate? This isn't fun for me to shoot, which is why I wouldn't have one. I would want one that mostly is for, well, I enjoy shooting it and taking care of it. And then also, would it be useful, God forbid, someone tries to get in the house. And that's why I have a Glock. Anyway, that concludes Gary's Gun Hour. And let's see, I'm going to make sure I didn't miss any other chat. Keith, how are you doing today? Oh, I don't hear you. Are you muted? You're muted.
There I am.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my barking dog from.
I appreciate that. Yeah. But I'm also tolerant of it, so don't worry if he acts up. But... So what do you got going on today?
Let's see. Well, I think I'm gonna work more on my novel. I mean, I think I may have mentioned this before, right? I finished my first novel back in October.
Yes.
And then I had a second novel that I was working on for a while. I wrote, think 80 pages worth, something like that. Like it was really involved, historical piece, etc. And then what I found is that I was stalling more and more on it. And so I hit a spot and I'm like, oh, I don't know enough research. So let me research it a little bit. Then I researched it, like, okay, feeling good. We'll go back, write a couple pages, like, not enough there either. Do more character work. So then I go do more character work. Wait 3-4 days. Okay, let's get back into it. And the breaks got longer and the work got less. And then I was like, am I telling myself something? I think I am. And I had been listening to the Neil Gaiman Masterclass and was reading on writing by Stephen King. And both of those things resonated in different ways with me. And I'm like, I think I am writing the wrong second novel. I do not. I think this novel is a higher degree of difficulty than I am ready to handle right now. And I want to go in a different way. And so I did. I just got an idea for a novel. Sat on it, wrote a couple short stories in the meantime to make sure I was right in what I wanted to do. And now I'm, 14 pages into that one, and I'm going to write a little bit more of it today. It's got a lot of a flow. It's very memoir-ish. I don't know if we've talked about this, but it dips more into my own life. Obviously you take your own life and then you novelize it and give it to somebody else, and then you're there. Right. So anyway, so I'm excited to be working on it. It's flowing a lot easier than that original second novel did. And I'm probably going to work on that a little bit. So yeah, man, doing that.
So are you comfortable talking about in what elements are autobiographical or is it just overall?
I mean, a lot of it is autobiographical. It's going to tie back to growing up in Texas, actually. I grew up in Houston, Texas. And so there's going to be elements of that are in there. Trying to think of what other things I can say without, how about this? I can get specific about some things. Like I was bullied in like 4th grade. It was a very brief episode. And hey, funny how you get bullied when you're not your full height. And then in about grade.
Yeah.
In 9th grade, I grew to 6 feet tall, and then the bullying stopped. Funny how that works.
It's weird. Yeah.
Crazy, right? So yeah. But yeah, so it's elements of that. It's going to bring some of my friends in, and it obviously takes a fictional turn very early, and then we go from there. But yeah, I think it's going to be more about, like, I generally know what the plot is, but it's the loosest I've ever felt about plot. I'm a plot writer. I am not a pantser. I am a plotter. My plots tend to be the thing, and then the characters have to hang around that thing and play into that thing. And so when I make mistakes, the mistakes tend to be very, oh, look at Puppet Master trying to get the characters to go do the thing they need to do for the novel to work, as opposed to feeling like it's an organic continuation of what the character wants.
Right. I'm having a lot. I'll probably end up. You can expect some level of crying on your shoulder later this year, because I'm gearing up to write the next D versus M, and I think of all of them, I'm expecting this one to be the most outside of my comfort zone in terms of the writing. So it's because this doesn't really spoil anything. It's going to be very soldier focused. We're going to be talking about, like, basically a little SEAL Team 6. I don't know if it'll be 6 people. It'll be like 4 to 6 people, something like a small team. And because I have pages and pages of notes, and I know, like, basically the outline. It'll be like, it'll start here, and this will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen, and this is where it's going to end up. But it's, of course, the writing is like, how are you, stringing all those chunks together, and how are you making it seem natural and organic, and not like, now I'm moving to the next part of my outline, And I think the thing I'm most anxious about now, having not started, and maybe I'll start writing and it's like, oh, it's all coming, it's fine, I didn't need to worry about it. Or maybe it is actually the thing I'm right to be worried about. Let's say it is 6 men, making them distinct, making each one of them very readily identifiable, and kind of, you can key into something about them right off the bat, but not caricatures, and not the sort of guys you always expect to see in the soldier stories. Like, oh, there's that guy, and oh yeah, this is the funny one, and oh yeah, like I don't want to.
Here's the one who takes being a soldier way too seriously. Right?
Yeah, so this is the one who's a little like he's been reading a book and he has smart things to say sometimes. Like, like all the kind of generic, like, and by the way, before I say this, I love Predator. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But you don't want to remake that. You don't want, like, here's the real alpha guy, and here's the funny guy. And here's the guy who's like a little spiritually kind of has a connection to what, you don't want to do that. You want these, but how do you also make each person distinct where it's like, I get this guy, I get this guy, I get this guy, without resorting to that kind of broad, like, let's just do cartoon characters and that's how you'll know them. And then also giving each of them their moment, where it's not like, well, that guy didn't do anything the whole time. Like so to me, I feel like I'm going to have to come up, like, who are my guys? How are they what like, sum up this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Now that I've come up with these guys, what's at least one thing they can do in this that really demonstrates that about them, and so they each have their moment, one way or the other. That I've never done any real writing like that before. Where it's usually, even going all the way back to my attempts to write a fantasy novel in college, you're focusing on like either one character or like just like D versus M so far, like a couple, like like the interplay between a couple or something, and you're really deep diving into that. This will be the first time where it's like an ensemble.
Yeah,
and I am anxious. I don't know how this will go.
I think it's tough. I think, something I've mentioned before, I think on the podcast, is that the amount of real estate you have in a novel is so much greater than the amount of real estate you have in a screenplay, a TV show, or a comic book.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that movies and TV have, I feel like, corrupted is character traits themselves, in that movies and TV, they allow attributes to stand in for character. So you might have one person that does this one thing, and that becomes the attribute that's the stand-in for character. I mean,
that's who they are.
Yeah, and we've had offline conversations about how you can use storytelling devices to get a lot of mileage out of a story in the best possible way. But these are also visual shorthands, character shorthands that people use all the time to get people to know a character, because, like you just said, they paint the broad brush and then everybody's like, oh, that reminds me of this kind of person, and then they fill in the blanks and do the work, right?
So, and that is something I think I'm going to have to lean on. Like we've been in the Making Comics chat and basically the Making Comics chat. We've been talking a lot about, and you guys have brought it up on the podcast, the economy of storytelling, of like the first 11 minutes or whatever it is of Up. And I've been touting, I don't think I've brought it up on the show here on my stream yet, but I'm loving The Last of Us. Like, it's a great series. But episode 3 of The Last of Us, to me, is like another example of the storytelling of the first 11 minutes of Up, where somehow in like the space of 20 or 30 minutes, you feel like you get a complete life and love story with two characters. And like, it doesn't seem possible for the amount of time. Like, how did I get this much out of it? And like really trying to analyze that. And then it kind of went back to our conversations from months and months ago about knowing your characters well enough to be able to, the shorthand has now become like, you've never thought about it before, but if what's your character's favorite kind of chip? Like, because you know them well enough, but also that says something about them. If I tell you Ruben Garcia's favorite snack is corn nuts, like that kind of maybe like now you kind of, or if I tell you like the example we had been using, I had used, that I think he uses like the old school Old Spice, like in the ceramic bottle. Like that's what he smells. That's what Ruben Garcia smells like, the young man in black.
Right.
I think what these all have in common, in my opinion, the first 11 minutes of Up, episode 3 of Last of Us, me saying that Ruben likes corn nuts and smells like Old Spice, is that you're sort of bootstrapping your understanding of a character through the use of reference. It's very sly reference. Me saying that Ruben smells like Old Spice actually doesn't tell you anything other than he buys Old Spice. But what you bring to it is you have an uncle, or you have your dad, or somebody. There was an older man in your life who smelled like Old Spice, and I'm basically now co-opting. Like I'm sneakily having you bring all those associations in to me, to my character Ruben, that I didn't write in, but now it works. Now I've done a backdoor approach to like building a character where you're kind of bringing the character and you're making him personal to you and you're making him relatable to you with your own experiences. I think something that's common, I don't know if this is a stretch, if it's just my kind of weird intellectual meandering, but there's something called the Barnum effect. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. But for the people at home.
Yeah.
Yes, the Barnum effect is, we're all familiar with the Barnum effect in one way or another, but it's the phenomenon of, let's say I show you a horoscope, okay? Like, what is your sign, by the way? Like, you're what?
Virgo. I'm
all right. Let's say
a woman on a rock, a flower. Yeah.
Let's say I say Virgo. Very interesting. You know what? I just read a funny horoscope for Virgos today, and I pull it and I set it in front of you. Okay.
Yeah. I bet I know where this is going.
The natural tendency is like, that's me. That's wow, that's weird. And then like, oop, handed you the wrong one. That's actually Capricorn. Here's Virgo. And like, no, that's so like, we have a tendency, we're very easily seduced with this idea of some kind of description about ourselves. Like that's whether it's a horoscope or but I think the way I'm connecting this to everything else is, I think something like Up works. Because when you watch that first 11 minutes and you remember it's the old man, the kind of dweeby guy who's you get the sense practical and smart and does like the kind of day-to-day, he's interested in like just all the like maintaining the house and everything and like the sort of straight line to life. And his wife, who you get the impression is sort of the more artsy, the one who teaches him how to love and appreciate the little moments, the one who teaches him to appreciate the beauty in simple things, okay? I think my theory, part of why Up works is we watch that and unconsciously or consciously, we're casting ourselves in one of those two roles. We're saying like, oh, I'm a little bit like the guy, or I think I've been in relationships where I'm like the woman, where I'm kind of the artsy one pulling the other one out of his shell, or I'm the one who creates the stability for this person to show me the beauty of the world. Like, and now that's how it works, I think, in part. It's a little bit of the Barnum effect, where you're looking at it and you think you see something of yourself in this, and that's what gives it emotional weight. That's what gives it like, now I'm like relating to this in a very deep and personal way. This is all a very long path towards, I think that's going to have to be the key in sketching out 6 characters quickly where everyone feels like they get them and they like them, or they at least understand them. I think I'm going to have to find something in each one of them that does that makes someone go like, if that's not me, like the success would be you start meeting these characters and you start like, which one am I? Which one am I in this group? Like, who would I be in this group? Who's saying the things that I think I would be saying in that situation? That's the win. That's where I know like I hit it. Like I think, and that's what will make it all effective. And likewise for the other characters, like, oh, that guy's totally my dad. And that guy's my brother. And that's that guy. I remember that's like my best friend. He would be doing that. You know, like whatever. That's now like, now I've got you. The trick. So this is the theory. Practice is where it all falls apart. Like how to capture that. And I haven't figured that part out yet.
I have a thought on practice. And it's that I think if you take a broad thing and hit the broad thing, and then take one or two or whatever, again, depending on space, right? Specific things. And you add those onto the broad thing, then I think you're doing what you can do. You know, like if Keith is the nerd in the group, that's okay. Right? Like, okay, so Keith is the nerd, right? But then if you add an attribute to it, that's a little more specific, like Keith loves metal, Keith loves death metal. Then what you can do is, the great thing is somebody can relate to Keith as the death metal person, even if they don't like that genre, right? Like they can, because what they can relate to now is my obsession with the musical form. So they can probably relate and say, I love freeform jazz the way this character loves metal. And I think I get the feeling that that's sort of it too, right? And that the nice thing is that even though you're being different, you're also sort of being, you're getting a degree of universality there, because there is universality there. There's loving music, and you can go
or like enough analogous kind of things where like doing what you said, where you look at something and it's like, well, I'm not specifically like this. Like I would not do this because it's hacky, but like this guy's way into baseball, talks about baseball all the time. It's like, well, I'm not in baseball, but I am in basketball. You know, like exactly. I mean, that, like it's a way to put something that's specific but generalizable. If that's where it's like, oh no, I can relate to that, even though I'm not into that particular flavor of it. I get this kind of thing, I guess, but.
You should probably pay attention to the chat before everyone riots.
I should. I feel like the chat is where did I leave off?
Yeah. Like there's definitely like there's some pitchfork gathering and torch gathering right now.
Oh, fantastic. Let's see here. I just realized there's a lot of the wire pushed away. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I love Scott Serklin's, and I use it all the time as my pitch, like if Quentin Tarantino did in X-Files. But I've thought to myself, slightly more accurate would be, but I like being able to use a quote. Like I can't quote, I don't want to quote myself. I like bringing in someone who also has some cred, like Scott, to say something about D versus M. But to me, it's like, it's almost more like if David Lynch did an X-Files. Or like, if maybe David Lynch did a Wire, like it's kind of like but it is very like, let's really focus. Let's not look at organized crime or the police. Let's follow this cop or let's follow this guy, like, and see what that looks like. Let's have all the big is the background. The big is the set. Like I want to focus on an individual's experience of the big, which is, I think that would be a way to maybe distill D versus M into something completely reductive. It's like an individual's experience of something bigger than them.
I have a thought on that, but I want to go through the chat for a while.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I can't wait. Let's see here. I actually watched G.I. Jane last night. My wife's idea. It held up. Yeah. It, asked to watch Striptease next. Night went sideways. Well, okay. To be fair, G.I. Jane is a far superior movie to Striptease. I saw Striptease because Demi Moore, and it was garbage. It was a horrible, horrible movie. G.I. Jane was pretty good. I wanted it to be better. There were moments, because that's Ridley. Was that Tony Scott or Ridley Scott? Who directed that? It was one of the Scotts. But I felt like there were missed opportunities that were just right there. Like low-hanging fruit that I would have, if they had just added a couple little moments, it would have really been a classic as opposed to just good. But it's not bad. Let's see here. Wire has themes per seasons. D vs. M has themes per issue. Let's see. There we go. Josh, back to cryptids. San Antonio, I saw a giant white bird. 4 road lanes wide from wing to wing? That would be a cryptid. Barnum statements. Yeah, yes. See, if you Google this, you can find. You seem like a person who likes being alone, but also like to socialize. Right. It's this very, but then you're like, oh,
Man, they get me. Yeah.
They get, and like you're saying things that, yeah, because you're a human being. Like everybody gets, sometimes you're surprised how angry you can get. Like, I mean, it's just like, yeah, okay, but I think, and I'm just starting to feel out this relationship. I think there's some kind of, I think storytellers would benefit from kind of meditating on the Barnum effect. I think there is something there. I think there's something there that can enhance, and it might be the difference between stories that really affect people, because for someone to be affected, it has to be hitting personal. Like it can't just be abstract. You're relating to it in one way or another. So, maybe the Barnum effect is something to think about.
I think it boils down to work. Personally, I think it. Like when you were just talking about the kind of thing you don't want to be. You don't want to be a thing where like lazy stereotypes and stand-ins are your character. And that's work. Yeah. You're not doing the work. You're not putting any work to make this character your own. Like nobody's expecting a truly unique character out of this. They've all been done, right? We're all just collections of attributes. I think it's about not stopping at the very typical type of person. And I rail on that kind of thing when I'm watching a movie or a TV show. I'm like, I know exactly everything this character is going to do because the writer didn't do the work,
This is, I think, at least the sample size of me, I think readers don't necessarily care if it's a wholly original character, if that's even possible or desirable. I think what they want is not a distractingly familiar character. Like that, nothing that pulls them out where they're like, okay, either one of two paths. Either I've seen this 1,000 times before and it's a cliche, even if it's plausible, or I don't even believe this could be a real human being. This seems like a cartoon character. Like no one actually talks like this. No one actually behaves in this way. Like this is just a weird sketch of a person that doesn't feel real. I've quoted myself on this many times, I guess because I'm proud of the analogy, but I actually think it's very legitimate. What I'm always looking for when I'm writing, whether it's plot ideas or characters or whatever, even to the smallest little decision, is I'm trying to avoid what I described to Dan Ickes once as the old Roman roads of storytelling. Where I think if I had put you on the spot and say, tell me a story about a little one-horse town in the West where like, a black hat bandit starts taking, when you start spinning this story, you're generally speaking, your first take is going to be very familiar. Like it's going to sound like every other little, gunfighter story you've ever heard or seen or we've all seen. And because I think when it comes to storytelling, it's like those old Roman roads in Europe where wagons have rolled down them for literally thousands of years, and there's grooves in the stone roads that now it's a thing where the wagons can only go down these grooves because that's what's been carved out. And I always deeply distrust first ideas. Whether it's first idea for what a character's doing, first idea for a plot, first idea of like how this should end, like whatever. It's not that I never use them. I'm just deeply suspicious of them because I have a bias against them. I assume like it's probably garbage. It's probably hacky. It's probably cliched. It's probably been done before, or it's just a minor tweak on something that's been done before. I want the second idea. Like I want, or the third one. And so when it comes to these characters, when I have to come up with this team of soldiers, I will probably be doing that. My first pass will probably, when I go back to reread it, will be like, these are hacky character. Like these are the Roman road characters. Like I know these guys. But, well, what's your next pitch? You know, that aren't these. Like come up with 6 more. You know, and those are the ones that maybe I'll be able to do something with. Those are the ones where I think, oh, there's something here. Like I think I can make that work. Where the first one was, again, like, oh, it's the Joker. Oh, it's the real serious, like the, you know, always everything is like wired tight military guy. Oh, it's like the creepy, quiet sniper. You know, like, I mean,
the one I hate, the one I always blanch at is the pure goon villain. The evil for evil's sake villain, or the beat 'em up tough from like the mafia, or just the person who's like, I'm the badass, and then they just do badass shit, and it's like, get out of here, you know? Like,
or the secret, the like clandestine sadist, like the one they're all kind of giving the side eye because like, good thing he's on our side, like, and they say shit like that, you know, where it's like, no, that's not on my watch. You know, like that's not happening. But it's the trick. And some of it might be fun research. Binging on a bunch of like group of dudes movies. 7 Samurai and The Wild Bunch and Saving Private Ryan and like just, you know, or like, you know, 5 Deadly Venoms.
Oh my God, just like, me too, dude. I swear to God, that's exactly
like, just to see like which are the ones that feel fresh to me and feel authentic, and which are the ones that seem very cartoony. You know?
Yeah.
Let's see here. That works as a force of nature. He somehow works, and I could dance around it, but I haven't sat and chewed on why Anton Chigurh works.
That's funny. I put that book down.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Really?
I couldn't take that super evil villain. I was like, come on, man.
It checked me out. Yeah.
It's one of my put it down. Yeah.
I liked the book. I loved the movie. And I normally that sort of almost supernatural villain would not work for me. But something of, I think with him, it was just enough for me to accept it. And I could give little examples of things that I think helped, but I don't know why it was. Like, for example, Woody Harrelson's character having a healthy respect and fear for him, but not being cowed. Like when he's talking about him in the meeting, he's like, yeah, he's a, you know, psycho killer, but there's lots of them around. You know, like the idea that like, no, I think I would not buy it if everyone who's crossed paths with him was like, Anton Chigurh, you know, like that would be like, come on, he's just a man. And like Woody Harrelson treats him as like, he's just a man. He's dangerous, but he's just a man. You know, the fact that he gets shot, like, you know, in the movie, like that's like, okay, yeah, like I like that. The fact he has to stitch himself up, you know, the fact that sometimes you get the impression like he's getting pissed off. Like he's not just like this weird grim reaper floating from scene to scene. Like it actually somehow, I was like, okay, I'll allow it, you know, but I could appreciate what you're saying where it's like, he is a little broad, a little kind of hard to accept. Well, thank you, Paul. Let's see here. Hey, Paul. Let's see here. Yeah, I agree. Anton works for me, but I can imagine. Dee Dee, thank you for popping by. I will probably see you maybe tomorrow for Jim's stream. I don't know. Okay. So that is mine. So I probably, like I said, will be touching base with you from time to time just to sound out like, does this pass the smell test? Does this, you know, like, what do you think? If I have a character like this, say something like this, what do you think of that? Does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me get back to the thing that I put on hold while you were
the chat.
So you were talking about this idea of like pitching D versus M, which I know is something that has been on your brain for, you know, the last month or two, something like that. And again, I apologize what I've said here to you on the live stream, what I've said in the podcast, what we've talked about in the, you know, side chats, all that stuff. But as I have been querying out my novel, what I've realized is, I did talk about this on the podcast a little bit, is that I'm not sure I'm selling myself enough. I wonder if I'm being a little too close to the book instead of trying to sell the book, And so you were talking about, if Quentin Tarantino directed an episode of The X-Files isn't really accurate. It is, but there are more versions there.
I think you could get more specific. Yeah, right.
Exactly. But I think the reason Quentin Tarantino directing an episode of The X-Files works, in fact, I described it that way to two different people in conversations, and they were like, "Oh, really?" Because I was talking about your book. And so it's the thing that sells versus the thing it is, for me, and I think once you do it a little bit and you try it on for size and it feels comfortable, you realize you can go even more, so in my case, what I've realized, I think, about my novel is that, in my opinion, it is a throwback to original horror. I mean, Mary Shelley. I mean, Bram Stoker. I mean, what's his name? Richard Matheson. Lovecraft, of course, right? But, the thing about Lovecraft is Lovecraft's ideas have translated well over the years. His prose hasn't. Like, the prose is so, like, rickety and all that. Like, what we love about Lovecraft is the ideas, not necessarily.
Yes, right. I'm so glad. Bravo for you saying that out loud, because I have like a Lovecraft collection back here. Because it was years ago. I felt like I need to get more familiar, because I knew what we all do, the popular. Like, I knew about Cthulhu and I get, and like the strange kind of lost ancient societies and weird plant people in in Antarctica. Like, it's like okay. But I was like, but I've never actually read the source. Mm-hmm. And it does not. I mean, my opinion. As they say about opinions, everyone's got one. Almost unreadable. Like, it's just so boring. It's like reading someone's diary. There's no artfulness in the storytelling. The ideas are really rich and they are, and there is a scariness, like a horror to it, but it's almost like what we've been talking about, like, you got to jackboot it. Like, I need to contribute to get this to work. Like, there's nothing here on the page that's really doing it. He sketched out a cool idea and he just presented it. It's like listening, and we've all had this experience. No shade if you're that guy watching at home. But we've all had this experience of someone at a con coming up to you and telling you the story of their comic, which they have not written yet, or the story of their book, and laying it all out. And you sit there and think, like, yeah, it's a good pitch. But like, it's, proof is in the doing. Like, show me an ash can or something. Like, give me something. That's, to me, what Lovecraft reads like. It's like, you got an idea here. Now do the writing. Now,
exactly. But anyway, so back to the pitch stuff. What I'm realizing is that when I have been doing my comps, my comparisons, and things like query letters, I've been more accurate than marketing. I've compared it to a couple books out there, one of which is well known and one of which is not well known, but that I feel is actually a true reflection. It's the closest book I've ever read to mine in terms of like its feel. But what I also realize is I don't think I've been selling myself enough, and I think I need to oversell it a little bit and market my. Number one, I'm going to start using a Stephen King story as one of my comps. I like doing like one popular, one niche as my two comparisons for a book. But I also might take a movie or two that I think is stylistically similar. Like, I'm going to play around with it, and I'm going to try to figure out a way to shoehorn this idea that, like, I'm the next Mary Shelley, and then once you start to do that, what you find is that you can have fun with that a little bit. Like, an agent came back and said, thanks, but no thanks, I'll pass. And now my attitude is, hey, you're the one who just passed on the next Mary Shelley, not me.
There you go. Look at that. Yeah. That's
but it's, the thing is, it's not that accurate, right? Like, I know what books are more accurate, but just like if you said David Lynch directing an episode of The X-Files more accurate, but maybe not the high end curb appeal that Quentin Tarantino directing an episode of the X-Files has. Less accurate, but more pizzazz.
I actually wrote down what you said of the thing that sells versus what it is. Because I think that's kind of what I've been meditating on the past few months, is like because I think if I actually had to pick out what is this most like if I really wanted to get people as close to this as possible, I would say the book, and this is important, the book of World War Z, is the closest thing to what I'm doing. I find I can't use that anymore, though, because more people are familiar with the movie, which is nothing like that. So I'm afraid now of misleading them. First of all, I don't think it will help them at all to say it's like World War Z and they're picturing Brad Pitt, and that doesn't help them at all. You had to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to have read the book. So the other thing, but now I've been thinking it's something also what I've talked about a lot through this whole thing is taking a inherently absurd premise and treating it very straight and going character focused with it. Now, another thing that does that is The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead takes this completely ridiculous, zombie apocalypse, but it's not really about that. It's about you're following these people dealing with the zombie apocalypse. I think it does it in kind of a clunky, clumsy way, but that's another problem where I think the comic is better. Okay. But most people are familiar with the show. So if I say, well, it's like The Walking Dead, but with a B sci-fi movie backdrop instead of zombies, that sort of gets you there. It gives you maybe a sense, but again, not exactly. And if you've been watching the series, I don't know. I don't think it does. And I also think there's some The Walking Dead fatigue now, rightly, So it's I don't want to point to something that people are sick of as oh, it's this thing that we're all over.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I just kind of default, but it is why I've gotten away. And if Josh is still here, he's noticed me doing this. If I can help it, I never say dinosaurs versus Marsbots anymore, because for a long time I felt like I enjoyed the misdirect of pitching it this is a weird, it's a kind of it's B movie, it's pulp, it's sci-fi, and then I liked the idea of bamboozling people by them picking it up and it not being that, it being very straight and serious and kind of emotional and character driven. I'm better now, and I realize I'm not trying to con my audience. That is not a great approach. It's you're gonna get this, ha ha, fooled you. That's not. Yeah. That's kind of a weird, bizarre approach, and that's why dinosaurs versus Marsbots, I'm keeping that because I think that's sort of, there will be sort of a maybe how the soldiers and stuff refer to it, it's this silly, corny thing, it's kind of the grunt speak. But that's why it's no, I'm going to lean into D versus M. It's D versus M, where it's, and people will discover what this is. They will read it, and I'll say no, it's sci-fi. It's character-focused sci-fi horror. We're going to and it's an anthology series. Each one is standalone. We're going to watch one person go through a sci-fi horror story and their experience. All these books, if you can say one thing about them, this is the day where someone's life changed forever. You're going to read the story about that. Okay. And they're oh, that's okay. And they read it, and then they'll see what is happening. There's aliens, there's dinosaurs, but I don't think it's the same kind of misdirect where people will be this is fucking stupid. I think they'll be this is weird, this is kind of Lynchian strange, what is he doing? I'm hearing about Jenny's dead dad that she has all these complicated things about, but then there's a raptor. What? This is I'm kind of intrigued. I'm going to stick with this. That's what I want. I don't want to bamboozle. It's like Mars Attacks. And then they're reading about, someone's difficult.
Yeah. I fight it with Kadoja all the time, because I did something I did something that the market has not done for the last 10 years, which is I decided to tell a serious-minded kaiju story.
Yes.
And there aren't any of those. You know, like
Yeah.
what people make comics out of are goofy, campy kaiju stories that are, you know, rubber suit throwbacks to, you know, freaking Minya in 1968, you know, and it's
Well,
like
they
that's
try, but then they quickly have to resort to the camp. Like when you compare,
exactly.
that first Godzilla, the first of the Godzilla remakes of this latest line of Godzilla movies? I
Oh,
don't remember.
2014, yeah.
2014. When you compare that to the most recent, like King Kong versus Godzilla or whatever, like
Yeah.
that first Godzilla was very straight. Like, and to
Yeah.
me, that had like a D versus M vibe. It's like where Godzilla's the background. Like Godzilla is wrecking the city, and we're focusing on this guy, you know, like who's like trying to deal with it. But then very quickly they're like, we don't know what to do with this anymore. Let's just let's hard right into Rubber Suitville, you know, where it's just like, and it's still fun, but it's a totally different approach.
Have I told you my biggest dumb pet peeve about that? It's the second movie. It's the one with I think it's the one with King Ghidorah in it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the second one. I think it's hilarious that when the mother gives her Thanos speech on like why the Earth has to die, you know, what I love is how meticulous her PowerPoint presentation is. Like if you look at the presentation that she put together for her master villain speech, that has to have been 20 or 30 hours of nothing but work in the lab.
It's not easy to do. Yeah.
No,
well, it's a similar thing. Like I always get struck by like, and yet she got up this morning and did her makeup and her hair. Like, I mean, how, if you really believe what this chick believes,
right?
How are you still putting on pantyhose? Like, what are you doing? Like, I just don't. Yeah, that's it's a little. I don't remember which comedian said it, but back in the OJ trial era, oh my God, the waiter's dad, Fred. I don't remember the waiter's name. The one who was killed along with Nicole Brown.
Okay.
The waiter / boyfriend of Nicole Brown. Anyway.
Right. I've lost.
It'll come to me. But anyway, his dad and sister were at court every day.
Mm-hmm.
His dad had this, people will remember, this very distinctive mustache. And I remember some comedians, like, it's really impressive to me that this poor man went through this. Like, his son was murdered. The trial is a circus. He's there every day. He's hearing all sorts of nonsense from the defense team. It's got to be terrible and traumatic. And yet every morning he finds it in himself to do this in the mirror. And just like there's a little bit of that when I'm watching that second Godzilla movie where it's the world needs to end, but like, which heels do I wear to work today? Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's the best effect to show the Earth getting ravaged here?
What's right. Yeah. Like, what do my slide transitions? Do I want the slide or the fade? What do I? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Did she hire someone to do this? I have to do a presentation about the end of the world. Did she go to some minimum wage guy? Like, can you get these? Exactly. Was giving him images of the 11th hour. Oh, add this one. I need a thing about this.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Like immediate subscription to a what is it, Shutterstock?
Yes. Right. Quick. Can you pull up? Can you download a YouTube? There's a clip from a movie I want to use that really sums it up. Yeah. That's funny. Okay. I have a hard out at 1:30, so I have 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to pitch in the time we have left?
No, I mean, hey, it's right there in my description. Listen to the Making. I'm going to go with something free, right?
Yes.
Making Comics podcast is free. It's in all the podcatchers. We have new episodes every Monday. Gary is our like top guest in terms of appearances. You've done the most appearances. You're a valued friend of the podcast. So yeah, man, listen, it's really this. It's just, people talking shop. It's Scott Lost and I just doing that. So subscribe to it right now, whenever you listen to this and download it, and you can check it out every week. It's just people talking about making comics.
Yes. And I say this, and it's not for your benefit. It's 100% true. You could look at my phone history to prove it. The first thing I do every Monday morning is download the latest episode of Making Comics. Like I am, it's part of my routine where it's like I'm always interested in hearing the latest one. There's always something about it. Usually I'm messaging you guys in the chat, like something about it that I thought was funny or I felt like I had to mention or
yeah, you had a good one this week about Scott like low key enabling me to buy Fantastic Four #5, which is super helpful.
So apparent to me. I don't know if anyone else listening. You'll have to see. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't listened to it yet. But basically, this doesn't really spoil anything. Keith talks about one of his comic grails, like something that he would love to own. Mm-hmm. It's just too much. It's just too much, and to try and make the point of like, this is why it's not even something I would entertain. He starts
it's a 0.0% chance. Yeah, 0.01% chance, depending on me getting a huge cash windfall, basically.
Yes, and it's very apparent to me, at least. You see if you agree. It's very apparent that Scott, as he politely listens, feels like no, you got to chase your dreams, man. You just gotta get that book. Yeah, and like that was very apparent to me. See if you agree. See if like it was just no, he was not going to co-sign like you're right, that's way too much money, that's crazy talk. You were not getting that kind of feedback. It was all just kind of like, well, like, exactly. Let me tell you about these books that I bought. Yeah,
exactly. So I love that. I love that expensive book I bought like a child.
Yes, yeah, right. If there was a fire, I would be grabbing that. Maybe the dog. Like, yeah, but like for sure that. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So cool. Well, I appreciate you popping in. I'm sorry I left you in the green room for so long talking about guns like some sort of bro. It was terrible. But
it was engaging. Yeah.
You always get something new and unexpected from the Gary live stream.
On the live chat.
Yeah. So 2-ish pages left. God, I need a very productive weekend. I'm gonna do it. Make it happen.
Yeah, go out there and get it.
Okay. I will talk to you next time. I'll talk to everyone who's watching next time. Next live stream, let me make sure it will probably be Saturday again. Let me check. Yes. 11 o'clock, a week from today. This daylight savings is going to shift, so I don't know. Yeah, but this time I didn't send out. Usually I try to post something the night before. I didn't this time. I will this coming one, so you'll know whatever the time is. But Josh, thank you for coming by. Thank you all the people
for having me, Gary. I appreciate it. Like, thanks for the input. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
I much prefer this to me just trying to like come up with something to talk about, by myself. So always welcome.
Well, thanks again. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so until next week, everybody, work on your projects and have good luck with them. Good afternoon.